Let's call the zoning commission meeting for November 16th, regular meeting to order. We're missing Mike, I guess. Mike Doyle. So we have 5. Okay, Shannon, can you start for Mike Doyle, please?
I sure can.
Okay. The first order of business is we have the approval of minutes of September 21st and of October 5th. September minutes were uploaded last time at the end of the day on Monday, so we deferred it to now. Does anybody have any comments or corrections that are needed?
Yeah, Dave, I looked at the Dropbox a half an hour ago and those minutes weren't there.
September 21st?
Oh, I thought you said October 25th.
I'm sorry,
Excuse me.
no. October 5th is the other one. But no,
Okay.
September 21st,
Excuse me.
those were the minutes that were just had all kinds of stuff in it. And we revised it and redid them. And then it was uploaded at the beginning of, or right near the beginning of the last meeting. So anyway, the minutes of the 21st is the subject. Mike is here. So Shannon, you're retired for the moment. Hi, Mike. You're muted, Mike. Okay, so anybody have any comments or corrections to the 21st of September minutes?
I do.
Okay.
I feel like a broken record. I've said this at so many meetings, but the minutes of that meeting, among other problems, my name is spelled incorrectly. Elliot has 2 T's. I say it again, our family's been spelling it with 2 T's for 300 years. It's the same, 2 T's. Diane Madigan's name is spelled incorrectly also. Her first name is not Diana, it's Diane. And when we get to the minutes of the October meeting that we're coming to, again, I brought that up before for that too, and it's the same. I thought that you, Dave, that you and Mike were reviewing these minutes to make some edits so that we didn't have to start with, the unfortunate.
I started with the text and not with the attendees and their spelling, so I missed that. But I did go through both of these minutes. Anything else, Bruce? Did you find anything else? Anybody else? Okay.
None that I care to talk about.
Adopt them as corrected. Can somebody make that motion?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Who's that, Mike?
Yes.
Okay, the second?
I'll second.
Second by Donna. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Carried 6-0. Those are adopted. Thank you. That took a lot of work, and I'm sorry we missed those names.
No, I was an abstention, Kevin.
Kevin's abstaining on that, so it's 5.
Yeah, because I wasn't here, so I'll abstain.
Okay. Okay, the minutes of October 5th. Anybody have any comments on that beyond the spellings of the names and the first on line 12?
Well, the misspellings are repeated through the minutes.
Okay,
It's not just one each.
all right, so we need to get them corrected throughout the minutes.
We'll do that. I apologize, Bruce. I'll take the hit on that one.
Okay, any other comments or corrections? We need to remove the yellow highlighting that I put in there to the changes that I put in, but anyway, can we have a motion to adopt these minutes?
I'll move their adoption.
Second? Second by Ann, who's muted, but we saw her wave her hand. So she's on.
Here
All
you
right,
go.
all in favor?
Now
Aye.
you're off mute. Aye.
Any opposed? Any absent? Any abstentions? Okay, this is good. These are approved 6-0. Thank you. With the correction of the two names throughout the document. Okay, we have no public hearings. We have no old business, no new business. We have a meeting scheduled for 2021 that we have to adopt. Can I have a motion to adopt the meeting schedule?
Yeah, I move that we adopt the 2021 meeting schedule as published.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Bruce. Any comments? I checked all of the dates. They seem to be not falling on Jewish holidays or other holidays. It seems to be Yom Kippur and are the ones that get hit by mistake. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, it carries 6-0. All right, rules of procedure. Mike did put in the change on paragraph, where was it, Mike?
Let's see here. I will screen share that in a second as soon as it loads on my computer. Oops.
Okay, it's on page 4, section 9, and it now reads that the commission shall use Robert's Rules of Order as guidance for the procedural operations of meetings, instead of making it mandatory, which was the recommendation of Bruce and the town attorney, who were in concert. Are there
So is
any-
that wording the current wording, Dave, that you just read?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Page 4. Now that was uploaded about 6 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, I
5
apologize. We had a little issue uploading this document. So,
It was there at 6 or 5 when I downloaded it. Any other comments or discussion on this particular subject?
No, Dave, just as a refresher, the only other two changes were the change of secretary to vice chairman.
Right,
And that appears a couple times, but the substantial change after that was just the elimination at the end of the consent agenda language to delete that.
right.
I don't know if you made other editorial changes, but I don't know that I saw them.
There were none really intended other than to simplify things. So, does anyone else have some comments? Do we have a motion to adopt the rules of procedure?
Well, I make a motion that we adopt the rules of procedure with the changes that you've noted, including going back to the original wording of the section on the reliance on Robert's rules. But okay. I was going to say, if you're going to take another moment for discussion, I had something else.
Sure, go ahead.
I just want to make sure that we all understand that consent agenda actually is a section out of Robert's Rules of Order. And it doesn't serve any real purpose except that it was a new topic to have been added in 2011 to our rules and procedures. But it remains part of Robert's Rules of Order, so it's available to the chairman for use in the future, even though it would no longer appear in our rules of procedure. Our rules of procedure still call attention to Robert's rules, and that's
Right.
really sufficient.
Mike, you have a comment?
I would second the motion.
Okay, Mike will second the motion. Now we can have more discussion. Any other discussion, Kevin?
Yeah, we put that in, I thought because we were trying to do more on a consent agenda. I don't know that we've used it a whole lot recently, but we talked about it a few years ago, where there would be more items on there than we've actually seen it being.
I thought it was a great idea in 2011, but in the intervening 9 years, I don't know if it's ever been used, but it apparently we can do just as well without it. So, the consultants who recommended it thought it would be a great strategy to adopt to hasten our pace in terms of ability to,
Right.
review and accept, and especially items that are, fit the profile of those things that could be considered in the consent agenda. But the thing that's tough about the consent agenda is it's very specific that the material and the issues have to be in the hands of the commission a week before the meeting or something like that. And I can't remember a time when the staff felt like they could provide material a week in advance of the meeting. It's not in our DNA, I guess. We're never going to do it. We can't. We don't have enough people. We never had enough people, I guess, to be able to produce. And we don't want to tell applicants who come in the door late and say, they're, the teary-eyed, the construction season's going to start and they'll miss out and yada, yada. So couldn't we just take something at 6:30 for a 7 o'clock meeting? And we do it. I'm not complaining, but I mean, it doesn't lend itself to the kind of discipline that you need to properly utilize the consent agenda.
I don't think it ever made a difference in the length of the meeting or how quickly.
No, well, part of it is we've shifted some of the stuff we would have historically done in a meeting. We shifted to the staff in different ways.
Right.
There's stuff that Mike can approve, and that's not a bad thing either.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we need to approve this by a 2/3. Okay,
Well, it's 2/3 if you do it in two different meetings, or you can do it in one meeting if it's unanimous. It's in the
Okay.
procedures.
I know.
all right, let's have a
Let's
vote.
see what we got here.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. So,
Okay.
So it's unanimous.
yeah,
Aye. Okay. It's opposed and abstained. Nobody opposed it. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay.
So
Yeah.
we'll have this document then uploaded to our webpage for the commission with effective date of today,
Okay. Good.
after the meeting.
Thank you. We were supposed to have Bobby Dean come to us, but he couldn't come tonight, so he's going to come to our next meeting. And I thought would be good for us to ask Mike to go through the Planning Commission's meeting that happened on Tuesday, where they had a public session, public workshop on affordable housing. And there were some things that were said that would be zoning issues. And so, Mike, can you lead us through that?
Yeah. Do you want me to screen share the affordable housing plan maybe first? That it's a draft. It's not effective yet, but at least show you what the Planning Commission has been working on. I know Shannon was the only member from this commission that was in attendance at the last meeting. So maybe she can also follow up on my comments if that's okay. I mean, it's a workshop, so the alternates can participate in this.
Sure. I'd love to.
we should at least put up the last page, Mike.
Yes, I'll do that. I'll go to the last page right now. And I apologize, for some reason, Dropbox is highlighting all the text. So just a wonderful technology day. So let me do this right now. So everyone can see the actions list.
Yes.
So the planning commission's had 2 public workshop meetings on the adoption of an affordable housing plan, which is required under 830J of the general state statutes. And basically, the affordable housing plan is supposed to illustrate how a community will increase the total number of affordable housing units throughout the town. The Planning Commission set a goal that over the next 5 years, they want to increase the total number of affordable housing units by 1%. Other words, they want to add 90 affordable housing units in town. How they're going to get to that number, they came up with this table of sort of actions that could possibly be implemented by various parties, kind of similar to what they do with the Plan of Conservation Development. They put a goal, it's a global goal, and they say, here's some actions, and who would probably be the best party to, or responsible party to fulfill this goal or to enact these changes. So there's a few that come to this that are relate directly to the zoning commission that are on their list. One is investigating and developing, implementing inclusionary zoning regulations, which are pursuant to 8-2I of the general state statutes. Inclusionary zoning regulations are regulations that give density bonuses, provided that you are adding affordable units. You already have 2 of these regulations in place. The workforce overlay housing zone is considered an inclusionary zoning regulation, along with your housing opportunity zone, because there's density bonuses and there are set asides for affordable housing units. But they still wanted to put this in as, let's look at it, because one of the things they discussed was, it would be nice to see some affordable units in the center of town. And that was called out earlier in their plan. Another item, which is the zoning commission is labeled on, is consider amending the zoning regulations to permit the construction of 2-family housing units by special permit in areas that are served by public water and sewers. So what does that mean? It includes some of your areas in town that are zoned currently as single family, allow for 2-family housing units. This was also in their Plan of Conservation Development. So this wasn't, the inclusionary zoning comment was not in their POCD. This one was in their POCD, and they wanted, because it was in the POCD, to offer it again as a possible action. There's a bunch of other actions that are here that may warrant additional affordable housing units, but specifically to the zoning commission, those were 2 actions that they felt could yield additional affordable housing units throughout the town. And obviously, because it's 830G, these would be deed restricted units that would count towards 10% housing stock. The planning commission received public input at the last meeting, and it was the last meeting was a very healthy discussion. There was a concept shared with the commission about decreasing lot sizes to promote small house development in town. There was a lot of discussion about ADUs and increasing the size of ADUs by several of the speakers. I don't know, Shannon, is there anything you want to add that you heard too?
Sorry about that. Thanks, Mike. No, I think you covered it quite well, but I do want to sort of reiterate what you said, that the conversations around ADUs were consistent, and many shared that they are too small. So there have been discussions about expanding those. I think there is an emphasis also on when we're talking about being inclusionary, we're talking about being in a downtown location where people have access to community experiences that we all have.
The definition of affordable housing is based on what? So it's based on a certain area and the prices of housing in that certain area, and then we calculate based on that. Is that
So-
accurate?
So it's actually based on household income, which
What areas?
we fall under HUD, the West Hartford, East Hartford metro area. I know we wanted to talk about the goals. I'm sorry if I'm scrolling quick on this, but the map of the area is in the plan.
So I was just a little surprised at what is considered affordable housing, because, I mean, it seemed really high to me based on, and I don't know whether that's just skewed because of the areas that are calculated into that.
The problem is that obviously we're creatures of statute. Under statute, if you're looking at the 80% percentile area median income, you're right. Some of the communities that income levels are being reported kind of skew the numbers, since we're not a real urban area. So you have like Simsbury, Granby, Avon, West Hartford. They're in the mix along with the Hartfords, the East Hartfords, or the more urban centers like Bristol. So you don't really get a real picture because, and this is by statute. Unfortunately, we can't change that. So an example being a 3-bedroom house for an average family, if you're going to go by the 80% AMI with a 20% down payment, that number is $274,000
And
for a home.
That's supposed to be affordable.
Yes. And
I think that's unfortunate, because I think that's not, when I think of affordable, that's not the number I come up with. So even if we're working toward affordable housing, if that's what's going to define it, I'm kind of like, is that really doing anything? But if that's by statute, then I mean, we can't change it. There's no way to say that's not really accurate.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, we're bound by that statute, and you're right. That number, because also remember, that number includes a 20% down payment. So you're talking about a family that is quote unquote 80% of the area median income. So they're not exactly, they may not have 20% down. So the number of people that would actually qualify, what we're hearing, is really small compared to, other efforts that are out there.
Right.
But that's if it's ownership. So if we're talking rents, if it's a rental unit, that's a different conversation because it's still the same incomes that are apply. But the other key to this is the reason how we get to these numbers, like a 274. You take the average income and basically you say that they cannot spend more than 30% of the household income towards housing costs. So that would be mortgage or rent, electric, utilities, HOA, you name all those fees. That's where we get to that 274 number. If it's a rental situation, it's a little different because obviously you take the rents and that number may be a little higher than what the average monthly mortgage payments, et cetera.
Right.
Mike, is there a definition? I was surprised they didn't make an effort to explain that. What exactly is the cost of ownership that's included in that figure, in addition to a mortgage payment? And so even as you just said, well, it's utilities and electricity and yada, yada, but what's the yada, yada? Principal, interest, taxes, insurance,
Correct.
Maintenance?
No.
Upkeep of any kind? No. Okay.
No. Yeah, that Bruce, that brings up an excellent point. maintenance and improvements of any kind are not included in that equation. So you buy quote unquote affordable house, at least from an 830G perspective, they're assuming it's new. And that you don't have to replace the roof. You don't have to, but a deed restricted unit. I mean, we have a few affordable housing developments that were approved by the court in town that have deed restricted units. I'm thinking of it's the neighborhood that's just to the east of it's north of the housing authority's property. I can't remember the name of the neighborhood. It's a residential subdivision. I think it's about
Place.
10 lots.
Farm.
It may be. It's
Farm.
not
Farm. Farm.
No,
Isn't it
it's actually east of Eno Farm. It's off the same driveway. There's a subdivision that's off of it. That was an affordable housing subdivision. And there's a few affordable units over there. If someone were to resell one of those affordable units, the other problem with 830G, not to get too critical of the current statute, is that that number, that income number obviously changes, but the sales price, the 30% that can go to their monthly mortgage and their HOA, their utilities, it's 30% period, no matter if that income level goes up or down. So the sales price could be affected. You can buy a house and say it's 274 right now, and in 2 years income levels go down, and that same house that's 274 is now only worth 254. You're limited by a hard number on this, so it kind of penalizes people that you because of this. But that's state statute, and unfortunately we can't change that. This plan, it has to follow 830G and 830J of the general statutes.
My suggestion to the Simsbury Planning Commission would be include some illustration of at different levels what the value of the house would be at different AMIs. The 80% AMI, 30% equals, it rolls up into the value of a house. As Donna was suggesting, you don't necessarily think of people who are buying a $275,000 house with a 20% down payment as in dire need of accommodation in terms of, the town and other citizens doing things to make it possible for them. They're doing it now. We have houses in Simsbury going for, above and below that figure. And
We have quite a few going for that figure.
it's absent the deed restriction. They don't count though. They don't count towards our requirement of 10%. But it also is not quite as obvious as I think it would be helpful for the people to understand that there are only a very tiny number of communities in the state of Connecticut that are anywhere near the 10%. And I think it's Bridgeport, New Haven, Hartford, and one other, and it's because the government-owned housing counts towards the 10%. So if you have massive public housing like they do in those cities, you get the 10%, but everywhere else, you're in the 4% area like Simsbury. So I think that an effort should be made in this communication to make it a little bit more fulsome so people understand that a little bit more about what's here.
Yeah,
But I'm not suggesting
the
there's
clarity on the,
Can I just interject for a second? I think that I have become a member of sort of a grassroots Simsbury organization that is called the Simsbury Coalition for, oh gosh, I don't even know what it stands for anymore, but there's so many words in the title, but it's for inclusive environments, diversity in our community. So let's leave it at that. I will say, as I've expressed before, that there is an expressed interest among this group and others throughout the community who are very committed and very interested to making this sort of change, regardless of whether or not what the percentages are in other communities. So while I understand that there are a lot of challenges, particularly with 830G, when we are, trying to move forward, I'm not sure that that is really of issue to, people are ready for change. People have expressed interest in moving this forward. So I think it's worth a deeper dive. Not, that's me.
Some of these things are interesting because we did expand the size of an apartment, or what do you mean,
The ADU.
the ADA. And
ADU.
we expanded that about, 8 years ago or so, maybe 10.
Right.
And it came under fire by a tremendous number of people. We had 30 people in the room one time at one of our public hearings. And, people were arguing that it was tearing apart the community. It was changing what they had bought into. And it's an interesting thing here that we have a bunch of people who are very concerned. And then when it comes to public hearing, suddenly a whole lot of people show up and they have a self-interest pretty clearly, and are not really very happy with some of these proposed ideas. The idea of having two-family houses anywhere in a zone where there's public water and sewer. That would get us all lynched, I think, if it became known that we were going to do that. And yet, there's some support for that, and kind of a moral idea that why can't we afford somebody to do some of these things? So it's a question that maybe Shannon was getting to. Should we be paying attention to the statutory things, or should we be looking at other ways of meeting the needs without living with the statutes driving us?
Yeah, I like that idea because, we're 4% if you go by the reg, but if you go with unrestricted housing, we have a lot of housing that's available for less than that. All the old EB houses, and we have a lot of housing that doesn't qualify for the percentage. And I would say, I think it's more important for us to meet that need than necessarily meet the statutory need. I'd rather have a house that's worth, if you look at the weekly news, houses that sell, and there's still some that are 150 to 175,000 selling in town, and those don't count towards our 10%. And
Yes, so should be able to give us a handle on what kind of real mix we have, shouldn't it?
Yeah, one of the other ideas or concepts are in this plan is, so there's ways that those houses could count if a first-time home buyer qualifies by income for a USDA loan for down payment assistance, or is financed by the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority. We get credit to that. And that's not adding deed restricted units. That's specific to a person buying a house and gets a different type of loan, assuming they're within that income level that is required under those loans. One of the things that the Planning Commission really would like is that, there's more of a public outreach to some of the agents in town that, hey, listen, there's an option out there that gets first-time home buyers or individuals that are otherwise need financial assistance. At the same time, we are getting more affordable units because, like you said, for those members who were on the commission back in 2015 when we dealt with the two workforce overlay housing applications at the same time, I remember looking at because we heard so many comments from the Climax Road application. sale price in Simsbury? Where do we stand? I looked at the assessor's data, and I think we determined it was like 30 or 40% of the housing stock would just by sales price alone or by assessment data would qualify for affordable housing under the definition of 830G if we're only looking at numbers, nothing else.
Yeah,
And
I
it speaks
think-
to Kevin's point. You have a large segment of this existing housing stock that is technically already by price affordable.
And I think we need to look at making it affordable and less at making it meet the state reg. I mean, I'd rather know that we're at, 30 to 40% affordable instead of, saying we're just got 4% that's affordable. I think the goal should be to increase that 30 to 40 and make people aware of that. Because I understand there's also an issue with the mortgages on people that are trying to do the deed restricted. The deed restricted, it's a government program that's actually working against some people. Because they can't get the mortgage for the house because, as you said, the value could go down, and banks don't like that.
So what I'm hearing is that certain lending institutions now, when they are explained what it means to finance a deed restricted unit, is that they're considering it a loser if they have to foreclose on the property, because, like we said earlier, that number could go down. And it's a problem we're dealing with. Certain lending institutions will not approve mortgages for deed restricted units now, which kind of works against the goals of 830G.
So really what we need to do is address it at the state legislature level to improve, and get away from the formula and improve the concept of affordable housing without the deed restriction.
Yes.
I think that's the way you increase the number of, or the availability of affordable housing, rather than just a strict number that, a government program doesn't work. I think we need to make it less restrictive and make it more widely available.
Kevin, I agree with you on that. And that has been a discussion that's come up regularly, is that can we get the ear of, John Hampton's ear or Senator Wickhouse's ear and have this discussion about the disparities in 830G? And, as a commission, I don't know if we can do that, but I think that is also worth having a discussion about.
Yeah, no, I mean, the group you're talking about, that they really need to meet with John and other legislators in the area just to say that we need a change. We're not against affordable housing, but we are against the way you count it.
But the real question here is, what can the zoning commission do within its regulations to enhance affordable housing in town? And, focusing on what the state statutes say, I think is kind of a dodge. It gets us away from solving the problem and hiding behind the skirts of the legislature. But I haven't heard anything that's been proposed that would get general, so far, that I feel that would be generally acceptable to the community. They vote for us, and we have to be responsive to the citizens that vote for us. So,
well, the development has to be economically viable for the developer too. So, what makes it economically valuable for them to build these houses? As I was saying, the EB places, those are neat little villages, and they're much smaller lots, and being able to do something like that would be neat. But can a developer afford to do that?
It's a density. It becomes a density issue.
Right.
It comes down to being a density issue, and how that goes over.
It's ancient history now, but I know when in the 70s, when Ensign Bickford decided they were going to sell their properties to get out of the housing business, they got some zoning change in Simsbury for cluster housing. And I think it's disappeared from our regulations. I don't remember voting on it, but I don't think it's there anymore. And it was specifically developed to, in conjunction with EB Realty. to enable them to develop and sell those houses, and everybody was happy. And I think they still are, but
Wasn't that the Stratton Forest, Bruce?
Stratton Forest would have been the same time. That was the same crowd. EB Realty was the same people then.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
did we get rid of the village zone? I didn't
No.
think so.
No,
What's
we
that?
remember we discussed potentially eliminating it, but then the consensus was a commission that we'd like to keep it in there. So it's the cluster zone and open space zone and village residential is still in your regs under the
Oh,
residential
good.
zoning standards.
I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, we didn't scrap it.
But that's a way to, deal with the density. I mean, there are mechanisms already in existence, but I think the point I think Kevin just made is we could talk all we want, but in the end, developers have to put money in this thing. And if you can't make it attractive to a developer, it doesn't matter what social good it serves. It's not going to get funded. So there's a balance, and it's really important that we, if there's going to be change, that we still hit some sort of a balance here.
I mean, Kevin's right. People love those neighborhoods. I mean, those neighborhoods are,
Yeah, I know.
yeah. So,
Yeah, I keep wondering, why can't you build that today, And it's
right.
because it's not economically viable for the developer.
Right.
What can we do to make it economically viable for him?
Well, I don't know. They added some new housing down there in Hazel Meadow as part of that
Yeah, that's same
cluster
time frame.
housing. They're not all old EB houses.
And maybe it's the land cost that, I don't know if it's the land cost or the building cost that makes it not viable, but there are, could we use, some kind of public trust properties to lower the property cost, and then you're just dealing with the building cost, but maybe we can't build them cheap enough either.
Well, that could be, Kevin, but that was somebody else's work on this list of strategies, action items. Somebody else has got the one to, I think the town staff, to see if there's publicly owned property that could be developed to achieve affordable housing objectives.
Yeah, the planning commission, actually, that was one of the ideas that was floated at several of the meetings was, do we have town property that we could possibly offer at a bargain sale to a developer to eliminate those land acquisition costs that normally would say, I don't want to do this because, I'm paying X million dollars to purchase this parcel and my return is low because I'm selling the houses for 150,000. So that's something that the planning commission, we went back and forth on what do we have in our portfolio, and that we'd like to actually investigate if there's options out there that we could possibly send out.
Yeah, see, they have a 2024 for that. I wouldn't think that would take that long to investigate.
Right.
We just want to make sure there's no deed restrictions, any other issues out there that would surprise us.
Yeah. And some of that program has not worked out so well. Like, the Eno Farms, I thought was on that because it's actually on town property under the Eno
Trust.
The trust, yeah. And then I remember there was one, the Pond Place or whatever in Avon was of that concept. You remember that, Bruce? Probably back
Pond
when
Place?
Yeah, Pond Place, where
For sure.
the property, the ground was owned by some organization, and then you only bought the housing, and it worked. It was low going in when they first started, and then they skyrocketed.
But actually, I just had a long conversation with an owner over there, and I had a misunderstanding because I thought the Pond Place units were sold. You bought the unit, but not the land, and the land was on a 100-year lease, and
Right.
that wasn't the case. Those people are owning the land too. So I'm not sure I could describe how it happens, but
Yeah,
you buy a 30-year deal, you eventually own the land as well as the building on it. So.
Yeah.
But it was a great thing when, that was in the mid-70s, and that was so hot when they started building those. People were buying options and then selling the options at a profit.
But it was because they weren't deed restricted.
Yeah, right. They weren't.
They were just lower priced units.
Exactly. Yeah. They were condos. I mean.
And people bought them and resold them, and
great location.
it's a difficult thing when you're trying to make things available to people that are at less than the market price. Somehow or other, the market finds a way to adjust, and it's not easy. But if you end up taking town land, for example, and creating a project in which the units are all affordable, how is that different from the kinds of things that have failed in the big cities?
I don't know.
I mean,
Because you want it to be affordable, but you also want the owner to be able to experience growth. I mean, that's part of the whole reason you're buying into a house, is so that you can take advantage of that market.
Which is why you get to deed restrictions, because that's the only way to keep it from
Yeah, but the deed restriction
going up
limits
in price.
their up opportunities limited by the deed restriction.
Right.
And so, yeah, if the market takes off, they don't benefit from it. But
anyway,
Well, they could benefit from it, but not only the real estate market has to take off, but the income levels have to increase with it. If your income levels are stagnant or decrease, then it doesn't matter what the real estate market's doing. That's the problem.
Yeah.
well, the prices
Sorry
have
for
to go up
interrupting,
too. Yeah, the value.
Yes.
But when I first saw this action plan, I was thinking, I wondered how much of the land stock that the town owns, how much of it isn't encumbered with some sort of commitment to open space or, outdoor activities or all sorts of things that we normally, it seems to me, and I haven't followed this, with a real critical eye, but over the years, most of the land the town acquires is encumbered with some sort of commitment to the future. So I don't know if you would find very much opportunity in this suggested strategy. The 2 years is a long time to spend looking,
But the
for needle in a
idea-
haystack.
the idea of mixing these affordable units in a development where they're not the majority of it seemed to be a good idea for sort of not creating a mess like we'd seen in the cities. And Aspen Green, how is that working out?
Excellent. When Aspen Green first opened, and they have 18 affordable units there, they did not have to advertise that they had 18 affordable units. They did a lottery, and they had something like, it was like 200 people signed up for the lottery.
Really?
And so, I mean, to say that was a success, yeah, this commission that was a success. That's one of our most recent success stories. And you have people now that are renting over at Aspen Green that probably otherwise were not looking at Simsbury as a potential town where they could find a rental unit.
How about across from the Wetuck Firehouse, that development? Is there any deed restricted, is there anything like that in that development? I don't remember hearing it, but.
So after this commission approved that development, we met with the developer, and basically we were talking about the sidewalk and said that there was funding available with the state to pay for the construction of your boardwalk, the construction of your sidewalk, etc. However, you had to set aside units as affordable. They refused, and they philosophically just disagreed with affordable units within their development. And it wasn't like a us versus them thing. They felt it was government intervention, and they didn't want to deal with it. That would have been nice to get some affordable units out of that development too.
Mike, can you repeat that? Who refused that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear who used that.
The developer,
The developer.
The developer.
Silverman, wasn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Well, is there something we can do with the other Hartford site to encourage that in that zone?
Well, if we're we better get going, because they're gonna sell that property under the.
Right, well.
And they're marketing under whatever the current conditions are. But
Yeah,
didn't I see reference in the outline of what the developer wants to do on Mike Gerard's site there on Iron Horse? He had some affordable housing units in that proposal of 160 or whatever.
That is correct. That's Nelson Construction is the applicant for that.
Yeah.
And he has committed to setting aside a certain percentage as affordable units there. Because he said, he's the president of Home Builders Association and basically said, we need more affordable units. This is ideal location for affordable units. I will have affordable units associated with any future developments.
Yeah, I mean, he was a good source too, I mean, as we're talking about how do we do this? As a builder, kind of friendly to the town, he would be a good one to get ideas on what he would need to make more of these units available.
Do you, I mean, I know that we're supposed to be reaching out also with our pad regulations to other developers. Right. And he actually was someone that we were going to line up to come speak with this commission. Do you want me to reach out to him and see if he'd be comfortable to also speak to exactly what Kevin just said? Is there something we can do to assist you with developing more affordable units in town from a developer's perspective?
Well, I would say it's a bigger question. Affordable is a good, that's an important issue, but I think it also goes along with, could we do something to encourage more development by his company or others by rule changes or some support mechanisms and especially the affordable housing?
So I guess I'm saying, I think it would be good to have him in to do the pad and because they're smarter. They're the ones that are doing it. Whatever we do, it's not going to happen. You need a developer to actually make something happen.
It might happen, but it won't affect development unless we have some developers who feel pretty good about it.
Right.
And how about the Aspen Green guys?
Eli, Eli is probably the largest developer actually that we deal with. He's a national developer and he does a lot of multifamily housing with affordable components throughout the country. Eli would be another resource that maybe we could tap into because he can give a national perspective.
What about the Sunlight, those units off Hoskins? Aren't there affordable units in there?
Yes.
And that developer is the one that actually tipped me off recently to having issues with lending institutions with deed restricted units. And maybe, I can get more information from Bill or his listing company on a little to explain further why certain banks are saying no to deed restricted units.
I think we have more affordable housing than we're given credit for. And worse than that, I think the perception is that we're just a lily white community that's got a gate up, barriers up to keeping diverse communities out. And I just don't think that's true. Maybe we need to get a little more publicity on what exactly goes on here and what we have.
So I could say this, that I am in discussions with a potential developer in town that is applying for state funding for a development that it will be a multifamily development that it'll be entirely affordable. Wow. Pending his approval with the Connecticut Finance Authority. So you will have some affordable developments that are coming that are not just your 830G appeals.
So that would not count towards the...
This one will, because he's going to receive state funding. So he's going to be under some very specific guidance under that state funding.
So it's not 830G, but it's not the deed restriction. It's done by the funding mechanism.
So this one, there'll be rental assistance that's provided to individuals. There'll be income verification. He's going to be under a lot of parameters from the state. It's going to count towards our affordable units, but that's on the horizon. You'll probably hear about it next calendar year, pending his approval with the state. But it's a kind of what you said earlier. How can we highlight some of the good things we're doing there? That's one of the ones when it comes, we should probably try to publicize that more.
I don't want to be difficult here, but I just want to point out that when you're looking at the demographics of who lives in Simsbury, we are pretty lily white. I mean, 94% of our population is white. So I think that's just a factual representation of who we are. And I think it's, incumbent upon us to tell the story of why that is not significant and what we are doing to make sure that we are a community that is open to everyone.
True, but affordable is also not just a racial issue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a son on the autism spectrum.
Yeah,
This
right.
is about disability access as well. So, no, I'm just pushing back on a little bit on the perception of
Yeah, a big 94% lily white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are pretty
Actually,
lily white.
yeah. Does the unit up in North Simsbury there count towards the 30G? It does. Okay.
You're talking about Okajia Commons?
Okajian, yeah.
Yes, because they receive government assistance. That's some of your government assistance units.
Okay. So I guess I don't understand that criteria well enough. I'll have to investigate that more. But there is an alternative way of qualifying.
So that was one of the comments the Planning Commission heard at both public workshops is kind of clarify a little more. One, this commission also hit on it about what exactly do you have in your current housing stock. Two is what exactly counts and what doesn't. And there's a whole point system. One of our first drafts, we were going to put the entire point system in it. I can't speak for the commission. They'll probably discuss that next Tuesday on whether they want to revisit that issue. It would make sense from a public education perspective that there's a little more deeper discussion on. So we're at 4% based on statute. How did we get to it beyond what's government, what's not, what counts, what's the points, et cetera.
Right, because we'll actually fall behind if you get any other kind of units. Regular market price will continue to fall behind. So they can say they want to go up 1% a year, but you put in 100 units of market price and you've just fallen further behind.
Yeah, that's actually that's actually the dilemma 830G, why it's kind of like a broken statute. It's that every time you add an affordable unit, a market rate unit, your affordable number goes down. If we're just strictly talking numbers pursuant to statute. Like example being Simsbury, if we wanted to say we're going to meet our 10% that's required under statute, we have to add 481 affordable units and not approve a single market rate unit. We just physically cannot make that number work.
Yeah.
We're not the only ones. We're not the only.
No, we are, and that's the other thing. Misery loves company on this one. We are not the only community that's sitting at either below 5% and cannot ever achieve 10% based on statute alone.
But you have to start looking at a different kind of housing then, and different opportunities and different types of housing, more flexible arrangements, or you're just going to keep adding to the market and falling farther behind. So instead of adding to the market with your status quo, units, we need to mix it up a little bit. That's the way to kind of tackle it, in my opinion.
And one of the suggestions that came up in Planning Commission was this model in Toronto. That is a mixed use development with, some affordable housing, assisted living. It's just, it sounds like the utopia of housing, but one of the members of who testified had lived there and shared some of the attributes of a multi-zoned facility like that with, young and old, disabled, abled, all different cultures, religious opportunities, etc.
Yeah, I think it's just a mindset with the single family housing. I think that you kind of have to break out of that mindset to begin to tackle this whole issue.
Okay, any more comments? We've pretty well discussed the issue, I think. We didn't intend to come to a conclusion, I don't think, but
No.
we do want to foster the discussion, get the facts out, and try to find the best way forward. And I think finding a way, I know that EB, for example, when they did the Powder Forest, they rejected the deed restricted formula, but they have affordable housing units in the Powder Forest that don't qualify as by state statute, but they're there. And, it's another one of those things that we did that we should get some credit for.
Yeah, because they were also having mortgage problems. Wasn't that part of the reason why they took away their restriction?
Yeah, if the commission recalls, I think it was about 6 months ago, we had an applicant come before us to have that deed restriction lifted because the mortgage company wouldn't approve the
That's right.
the sale because it was not workable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sold for an affordable price, but it just that deed restriction prevented their ability to get title insurance.
Well, that's what it was titled. Yeah. And actually, we talked about the accessory dwellings. We actually made our regs more restrictive in that area because we've kind of made it so that it had to be a family member instead of a non-family member just to appease most of the neighborhoods in town. Just having, I don't think the town is ready for ADUs to be all over the place. The family living in the same housing didn't seem to be an issue, but having different families within the same, basically a multi-family house within a neighborhood where they didn't buy into that idea was hard for people to accept.
But I think, Kevin, in our case, that ship had already sailed because it's been, I don't know when it was that we stopped requiring that it be a family member. They could rent.
We don't say that anymore, but it has to have a shared door.
Oh, yeah. Well,
right.
We also reduced the units from 1,000 or 1,200 square feet or something down to 650. And we had no public comment on that change.
No.
None.
But we did make it, because of the changes we made, it really has to be more of a family member than just, a stranger, a rental situation.
Not the regulation. It could be
the reg we changed, when we changed our regs this year, right. You have to have the common door, a workable door between the two.
Right. But it doesn't say you have to be a relative or a friend.
Not if it's attached, right?
Pardon?
The shared utilities. I think what the key was that we, based on the input of public on our historical application ADUs, the shared utilities is what really kind of separated from being a rental unit versus you have a family member living there.
But there's no requirement that it be a family member. That's my point.
No, right. You can't say that, but just because of the nature of the requirements, it could be a good friend. It doesn't have to be a family member. But.
No. In some towns, they list the priorities, who they have to be. There's certain categories of people.
Yeah, no, we don't restrict it that way because, what do you do after, you build it for your mother-in-law, she passes away. What do you now do with that unit?
Right.
So, you can't say.
I think it's Canton that has a restriction. Canton has a restriction for the first tenant. And after that, it's anybody who will pay what you're asking. Yeah.
But because of the way we design the units now, you're going to want to have some familiarity or comfort with it's not just a stranger that you're renting to.
Right. I think we're reaching the end.
The end. Okay.
More comments? Going once? Okay, I think it's time, Kevin.
All right. Motion to adjourn then.
Second.
Second by Bruce.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries.